is also looking forward to become an upper middle income country by 2031. It has already graduated from a low income country to a lower middle income country in 2015, according to World Bank's category. Now, Bangladesh also aspires to become a developed country by 2041. But on the other hand, we are also seeing a lot of challenges, both external and also domestic. In case of external challenges, which those are not in our hands, for example, the ongoing pandemic is a challenge. But the perennial challenge Bangladesh is facing is the impact of climate change. It is a vulnerable country. On the other hand, we are also going through this revolution, technological revolution, how Bangladesh will adapt and prepare itself to take benefit from the technological revolution. That's also an issue which requires a lot of investment, a lot of financial investment, resource mobilization. At the same time, there is also deficiency in case of infrastructure, which again requires a lot of investment. We need private investment. We also need foreign investment. And for that, countries like Japan can come forward. It has been doing a lot, but there are also a lot more to be done. In case of trade also, we have seen that compared to last 2-3 decades, the trade integration with Japan has increased and has, but there are a lot of opportunities, also a lot of opportunities. Japan has given duty-free, quota-free market access, but also in case of ready-made garments, for example, we need to, for Bangladesh, we need to prepare because to enter to a higher level of market, not the low-end product, but for high-end products, we have to prepare ourselves. But also we urge Japan also to collaborate and also collaborate in case of making some flexibilities in case of various compliance issues. That's, of course, Bangladesh will prepare once it graduates. It has to comply with that. But not only for ready-made garments, Japan can be a destination for many other products. So trade collaboration can be enhanced. For technology, I have already mentioned that this is an emerging area, and Bangladesh has to prepare for that. There is also opportunities for that. So we see that there are a lot of scopes for strengthening the relationship going forward in the next journey. So we look forward to that. We have a number of distinguished speakers I have already mentioned, but at this point in time, I would like to request His Excellency, Mr. Ito Naoki, to make his welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hamida Khatun, Executive Director of CPD. Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Manan, Minister of Planning, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed, MP, Parliamentary Standing Committee on Ministry of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Shahabuddin Ahmed, Ambassador of Bangladesh to Japan, Ms. Kathy Matsui, General Partner of Empower Partners, Board Member of Asian University of Women, Professor Tatsufumi Yamagata, Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University, Professor Kenta Goto, Kansai University, Mr. Shifu Chaudhary, President of JBCCI, Mr. Yuho Hayakawa, Chief Representative Jaiga, distinguished guests and participants, colleagues from CPD, members of JBCCI and Japanese Shokokai, and diplomatic colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, and ohayo gozaimasu. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all at today's hybrid seminar on Bangladesh-Japan partnership for the next development journey, hosted by Center for Policy Dialogue. We are so privileged to welcome and have distinguished scholars and experts from Japan and Bangladesh. I thank CPD for their wonderful arrangements. As Dr. Hamida already mentioned, this year marks the 50th anniversary of establishment of the diplomatic relations between Japan and Bangladesh. This CPD seminar is one of those events to mark and celebrate the 50th anniversary. Another such event is a photo exhibition, currently ongoing at the Liberation War Museum. That is an exhibition on Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's visit to Japan in 1973, photo exhibition of 50 photos of Bangabandhu's visit to Japan. Bangabandhu's visit laid the foundation for the subsequent partnership. The friendship and cooperation between Japan and Bangladesh have become more robust than ever. The economic development of Bangladesh has been remarkable. The number of Japanese companies investing in Bangladesh has been increasing by year recently. Indeed, the investment from Japan has more than tripled in the last 10 years, notwithstanding the holy artisan terror attack in Dhaka in 2016 and the COVID pandemic. According to the recent JETRO survey, 68% of Japanese companies in Bangladesh are ready to expand their business operations in the coming 2 years. Against this background, Prime Minister Kishida Fumio praised Bangladesh in his message for the 50th anniversary, saying that the rapidly developing economy of Bangladesh is an attractive investment destination. I have full confidence that trade and investment between us will expand further. I must congratulate Bangladesh on graduating from the least developed countries LDC status in 2016, and Bangladesh aims to become a developed country in 2041 by achieving the Vision 2041. On the road ahead, however, as Dr. Famida mentioned, the country may need to cope with emerging new challenges. Industries must be diversified. Introducing new technology is necessary for productivity growth. Workforce development with skills will also be essential. Young and talented Bangladesh should be ahead of the curve of innovation. I believe expansion of FDIs, particularly from Japanese private sector, will help Bangladesh address those challenges. Increasing the ratio of FDIs vis-à-vis GDP is critical, and to attain that, we expect further progress in the ease of doing business. Coordinated and focused efforts during the corona pandemic have shown some positive outcomes of deregulation. We welcome that, but regulatory and structural reform should continuously move forward. We hope that the government will take up issues that Japanese companies face, including delays in customs clearance, various taxations, restrictions on telegraphic transfer of import payments, discrimination of export incentives between domestic and foreign companies, and improvement of the business environment in EPZs and SEZs. With these in mind, the theme of today's seminar is quite timely and pertinent. We look forward to listening to the learned views and engaging discussions among the speakers and panelists. We can show our chart on where Bangladesh is headed and how Japan and Bangladesh can build a win-win partnership in the decades to come. In this milestone year, Dhaka Mass Rapid Transit, Dhaka Metro Line 6 will start its commercial operation in December. Bangladesh Special Economic Zone in Arai Hajal will also be ready for Japanese as well as international investment. After that, Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport expansion, Matabari Deep Sea Port, and Bangabandhu Railway Bridge will be in line to enhance connectivity. These quality infrastructure projects by Jaiga will promote the Bay of Bengal Growth Belt Big B initiative and transform the nation. They will significantly enhance the economic opportunities of Bangladesh and open up the further possibility of regional development. I want to emphasize that Bangladesh's economic development and prosperity are vital for the stability of the entire Indo-Pacific as Bangladesh connects India and ASEAN and beyond. Before concluding my remarks, let me touch upon the situation in Ukraine. Russian aggression infringes upon the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, and a unilateral attempt to change the status quo by force. That has shaken the very foundation of the rule-based international order. Its ramification will go beyond Europe. Peace is of utmost importance for the stable development and economic growth of each country. Unilateral changes to the status quo should not be allowed in our region, Indo-Pacific. Lastly, I would like to reiterate that Japan will make the utmost efforts to deepen the mutual understanding and exchange of the two peoples. To that end, we look forward to working together with the government and the people of Bangladesh. In this milestone year, Japan reassures it will stand by Bangladesh for its development journey and towards our sustainable and more prosperous future. Thank you very much. Shobaike onek dhonnobad.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Ito Naoki, who is the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, Embassy of Japan in Bangladesh, who is our guest of honor. Now I would like to request Ms. Kathy Matsui, who is a board member of Asian University for Women and also general partner, Empower Partners in Japan. She will, because she has a time constraint, so I would request her to make her presentation. And just to add a little bit about Kathy Matsui, she is the former vice chair of Goldman Sachs Japan and chief Japan equity strategist. Her groundbreaking work, which is called Womenomics, that research had spurred the Japanese government to promote gender diversity, and she has advised corporations on governance and diversity best practices. She has an MA from Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and an AB from Harvard. So, Ms. Kathy Matsui, over to you. If you can make your remarks within 10 minutes, that would be great. So are we connected? Oh, okay, she's not connected. Okay, then I would like to request our chairperson, Professor Rehman Sobhan, to make his remark. He is connected with us through Zoom. So over to you, sir. Yes, sir. If you can unmute. Yes, oh, it is unmuted. You are unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Minister Manon, Ambassador Ito, guests. It's a great pleasure for me to be here to share with all of you the commemoration of 50-year partnership between Bangladesh and Japan. I see that diplomatic relations were established in February 1972. I wish to point out that my relationships with Japan are rather older than that of the formal relationships with Bangladesh. I first visited Japan in 1959. I think this is perhaps before most of our Japanese partners over here, including His Excellency, the Ambassador, was perhaps born. And I was at that time a member of a trade delegation representing the then East Pakistan. And my exposure to Japan in 1959 was a personal eye-opener for me because Japan had made this miraculous recovery in the post-war phase where a completely war-devastated country had emerged as one of the major emerging economic powers of that time. And as an Asian, I felt deep pride in seeing that a nation country had achieved levels of development which I had observed in countries such as the UK and Germany at the time when I was a student over there. My subsequent relationship with Japan is again pre-liberation, because when I was campaigning on behalf of the government of Bangladesh in 1971, I was a member of the Bangladesh UN delegation, and we received great assistance in that campaign from the Japanese delegation, who were at that time members of the Security Council. In fact, by a fortunate coincidence, the first secretary in that delegation, Ambassador Takio Eguchi, who later on served as Japan's ambassador to Bangladesh, had been a contemporary of mine in the university when I was at Cambridge and he was at Oxford. And he played a very instrumental role in keeping me and the Bangladesh delegation informed about the proceedings of the Security Council and to give us advice on what strategies we might follow in addressing the course of the debate, because Bangladesh was obviously not formally recognized as a partner in the deliberations. You should all keep in mind that Bangabandhu was a person who already established his footprint in Japan, and his visit there was a landmark event. A number of you will probably be aware that the outcome from Bangabandhu's visit to Japan were twofold. One, of course, was the first significant investment in the Sonargaon Hotel, which emerged out of that visit. The second was his invitation to Jaiga to come and do a feasibility study of the Jamuna Bridge, which became later on as the Bangabandhu Bridge. So these were all historic connections which are crucially important. We had the advantage that Japan has been a major trading and development partner of Bangladesh pre-liberation. I don't know how many of you people here are aware of the fact that some of the major industries which were set up pre-liberation through Japanese aid were located in the then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. The Karnafuli fertilizer factory was the very first fertilizer factory established in partnership with the then Industrial Development Corporation, a public sector body. The Chittagong steel mill was another major project which was established in partnership with the Industrial Development Corporation. A number of other major projects were put in place over there at a time where other donors and other investors were hesitant to come into Bangladesh. So there was a historic connectivity between Japan and the people of Bangladesh, which has been continued and sustained and renewed after its formal recognition. In fact, for much of this period, Japan at the bilateral level has possibly been the largest major donor to Bangladesh, which again has been of great importance to us in the course of our development. And today, as far as I know, they are once again the position of emerging as the largest bilateral donor. They have got two major projects underway, which we are sort of witnessing with great pride over here. The Matrabari projects, as also the Dhaka mass transit project, which we observing before our eyes, which are playing a very important role in constructing our infrastructure. I don't know if our colleagues from Japan will tell us a bit more about how far Japan is going to be remain engaged with us, at least in the energy sector, given the now move away as a process of responding to the climate change agenda of moving away from coal-fired projects. But we would expect Japan to remain engaged in the energy sector anyhow. Now, the last point I wish to make over here is that an excellent presentation has been made by Yusuf Sadat, from my colleague at CPD, on the development and then the prospects for Japan-Bangladesh economic relations. And he has identified some of the emerging opportunities. Now, the one issue I would want to bring to the attention, both of the Japanese participants and my colleagues at CPD and others here, and including the planning minister, is that by Japan's standards of developing economic relations, we are still at a very low end of the partnership scale. Japan's major trading relationships over the course of the last 2 decades have relocated itself away from the United States and the EU and has relocated itself within the Asian region. Its largest trading partners are indeed China and ASEAN, and of course, if you add on to that, Taiwan and Republic of Korea, far and away their major trading relationships are located within the Asian region. Now, we as an emerging Asian developing economy need very much to plug into the networks which have been established by Japan. With its Asian partners is the construction of deep value chains, which have enabled Japan to hollow out its industrial sector and to relocate it around the Asian region. So that a whole variety of manufacturing processing sectors, which are both serving Japan and the export markets around the world, have really originated from this partnership. And if you really look at the transformations which have taken place in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Malaysia, you will notice this major restructuring. It is for Bangladesh to really identify opportunities in partnership with our Japanese colleagues. And here I think some joint studies of how we can restructure this relationship become extremely important. It isn't enough for Bangladesh to just establish its first footprints as a ready-made garment exporter, because if you, for example, look at Vietnam's trading relationships with Japan, their major exports to Japan are in the area of machinery and equipment and other high-value, technologically oriented exports, rather than the traditional ready-made garment sector, which they began their relations with Japan. So how exactly we may move into this process and become a source of Japanese investment in our manufacturing sector, with a target for both the Japanese and the Asian markets and the global markets. I don't know how many of my Bangladeshi friends have noticed when they have been shopping for electronic goods in the markets in Bangladesh, that if you see the major brand name products over there, whether we are talking about air conditioners or refrigerators or computers, you will notice that Japanese brand names are very visible, but virtually all these products have been manufactured in Indonesia or Malaysia or Vietnam, and of course in China. So we should certainly be exploring the possibility of participating in that process of relocation of Japanese investment, because the whole nature of economic partnerships is the evolution and upgrading investments in our infrastructure, since they are now making a major investment in developing export processing zone, and already a significant number of Japanese companies are here. What we need to really explore together, both at the operational level and at the research level to guide investment opportunities, is the upgrading of investments from Japan to invest in the value chains, which in fact have elevated their relationships with the ASEAN countries and with Japan and with China and other Asian countries. I hope that our dialogue will initiate such a process of inquiry. In the process, I once again would like to express my deep appreciation for the Japanese partnership with the people of Bangladesh, which goes back many years in pre-liberation. And this is a relationship which we should in fact cultivate and strengthen, because much can derive from this relationship if we handle it well, creatively and intelligently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rehman Sohan. We learned from you that your own association, which goes back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, much before the liberation of Bangladesh, and also Bangladesh's relationship, economic and developmental relationship with Japan, that also goes a long way. And you rightly pointed out some of the areas where we need further collaboration and strengthening and integration, including investment and also upgrading investment in the value chains. Now I would like to invite Ms. Kathy Matsui. She has joined, I understand. She has joined online. So Ms. Kathy Matsui, who is a board member of the Asian University for Women in Bangladesh and also general partner, Empower Partners. So over to you, Ms. Kathy.
Thank you very much. And it is an honor and a privilege to be invited to speak with all of you at this very special Bangladesh-Japan partnership dialogue. I have myself made several trips to Bangladesh in the past in connection with the Asian University for Women project in Chittagong. And I am always so impressed by how rich your culture is, how hardworking your people are, how hospitable, how friendly. And I've always thought to myself, we must do more between Bangladesh and Japan. I was asked to just make a few comments about a subject that I've done quite a bit of research on here in Japan, which is called Womenomics, or the combination of the word women and economics. It is a concept I coined 23 years ago in 1999 in the context of Japan's demographic challenges, which are very severe, as you know, quite opposite from Bangladesh. But just to put it into perspective, Japan's own government projects that Japan's workforce population, those Japanese between the ages of 15 and 64, that portion of the population is projected to decline as much as 40%, 40% by the year 2055. And if you think about the drivers of any economy's growth, Japan, Bangladesh, anywhere, it's really people, capital, and productivity, right? And so if the people part shrinks that dramatically, you have a challenge with respect to how you're going to grow. So my concept was very simple. I realized that in Japan, there were not that many women, particularly after they started a family, working outside the home. They're very educated, very talented, yet of course, many of them opted not to pursue a career outside the home, but many of my friends actually wanted to pursue a career or return to their careers after giving birth to their children. And for a whole variety of reasons, found that it was very difficult to do so. So I calculated, because I'm a research analyst, how much could GDP be boosted if more women worked in Japan. And my most recent analysis showed that Japan's GDP, which is about 5 trillion US dollars, could be lifted by as much as 15% if you could close that gender employment gap. Of course, I know this is an unrealistic dream, but the government here finally latched on to this idea about let's try to leverage half the population more, and that gave actually birth to some very innovative policies to support more women in the workplace. More childcare capacity was constructed. There's now greater transparency for companies. They actually have to disclose their gender-related statistics and highly encouraged to set gender-related targets or goals within their organizations. So in 2019, right before COVID struck, Japan actually had a female labor participation rate, used to be one of the lowest in the developed world, actually shot up to 71%, which was higher than, I'm Japanese American, so higher than America and higher than Europe. So the numbers, the quantity of women working outside the home really hit record levels. However, the problem we still suffer in Japan is there are not enough women in leadership or decision-making positions, both in the private as well as the public sector. And just linking this back to Bangladesh, I was asked, so how does Womenomics, or what's the potential for Womenomics in Japan, in Bangladesh? Of course, I think this is also similarly tremendous. Every time I go, I'm so impressed by the quality of the female talent of your country through the angle or through the lens of education. Obviously, to the extent that I know Bangladesh has done a huge amount of work in providing capacity for primary, secondary, and tertiary education, and a university like AUW, which is educating women from 18, 19 different countries, including women from Afghanistan, including women from Syria, from refugee areas, including garment factory workers from within Bangladesh. To me, that is the key. If somebody asks me, what's a silver bullet for peace in the world? I always say it's women's education. So you are already on that path, but I think to the extent that you can invest further in that arena of higher education, I think that would be a real key to galvanizing Womenomics going forward. My last comment is related to Bangladesh and Japanese relations. I haven't done a whole lot of macro research on this partnership, but listening to Professor Soban just now, it really reminds me that, like I just said, Japan is a very resource-poor nation. If you think about it, it's running out of people. It doesn't have a lot of natural resources, but it does have technology. It does have industrial capacity. It can transfer technology. So to the extent I think I see a very highly complementary partnership. I know there's already been progress in that direction, but I think there's so many mutual benefits for both sides. It's a win-win potential partnership. So to the extent that, for example, labor from Bangladesh coming to Japan, there's quite a few immigrants from other parts of Southeast Asia, not as many from Bangladesh as I think there could be, but in a whole range of areas that are labor intensive that Japan simply does not have the resources. I see some capabilities there. And likewise, for Japanese industrial companies, trading companies, automobile technology companies, to try to help Bangladesh continue its development, which has been so rapid so far. I think if we can form a deeper partnership in that arena, that would also be a win-win for both sides, Japan and Bangladesh. But I will just leave it there. I am, again, so happy to be here, and I really look forward to seeing more progress in this partnership, but particularly in this area of gender diversity. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kathy Matsui. So you have highlighted the concept you have coined, that is Womenomics, how it has brought in new ideas and also spurred some activities towards women's participation in the labor market. We have another presentation from CPD, but I understand Ms. Kathy has to leave. She has another important appointment. So I would like to open the floor for 5 minutes. If you have any comments, and particularly on Kathy's presentation, that would be great. So just short comment, within 1 or 2 minutes, so that we can take 2-3 comments from the audience. I can see, so Ambassador Dola, you have been to Japan, and also I think you are familiar with Kathy's work. মাইক্রোফোন নিয়ে দেন আমার কাছে।
Well, thank you, Dr. Fahmida, for inviting me to speak a few minutes. Actually, you know, in my 34 years of diplomatic, service, that Japan was my final posting as ambassador from 2006 to 2010, and I believe that was the crowning of my long, diplomatic career. So I really had tremendous privilege, opportunity to interact from the Prime Minister down to the ordinary people, two former Prime Minister, Mr. Shinzo Abe and Mr. Taro Aso are my close friends. They even attended, Mr. Taro Aso as Prime Minister attended the National Day celebration in Tokyo. So that really, what I really that was the first Japanese industrial export outside Japan after the Second World War. The first, that's a record. And second, he also mentioned, I really need few minutes if you kindly give me 5 minutes. I really want to say.
Within these 5 minutes, I wanted to divide these 5 minutes.
Just 1-2 minutes. When I presented my credential to His Majesty in 2006, marked the year 2006, the first thing he asked, he told me how impressed he was meeting Bangabandhu when he visited Bangladesh, as a crown prince in 1970. About Kathy Matsui, Kathy has been a very close friend. We had closely interacted, about the Asian University in Chittagong, and still I'm in touch with Kathy, and she has been a great champion of Bangladesh, in Japan. One more thing, the Jaiga president said there are a few things that what really sets apart Bangladesh. Effective utilization of ODA. This is one thing that's really great, I think, is a tribute to Bangladesh. Second, when I was there in 2008, the Asian Development President, Mr. Kuroda, he told me that, Ambassador, following the MFA, we thought that Bangladesh garment industries will collapse, but your people's resilience is so tremendous that not only that, they did not collapse, they did not affect. On the contrary, your garments industry have started exporting even bigger. So these are the kind of, sort of attitude that I would say the people of Japan hold about Bangladesh. 50 years, 1 point. Maybe, Ambassador, I have written extensively on Japan-Bangladesh bilateral relationship in our newspapers. Maybe this is a year that we might invite His Majesty to visit Bangladesh to set the tone, direction for the next 50 years. And second, and the second point I really wanted to make, that we should form a joint strategic, which Professor Raman Saban has also mentioned, joint strategic trade investment and economic commission between the two countries to identify the niche areas so that we can start to make Bangladesh a manufacturing hub for exporting to outside other countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Shukudullah, for those comments and suggestions. I see Ambassador Farooq Subhan, so I would like to request him. Then I will come back to the audience once again, but at this, this section, I will just, end with Ambassador Subhan. Yes.
I'd like to thank the chair and echo some of the sentiments that have been expressed earlier, in particular by the chairman of CPD. As His Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan is aware, I had mentioned to him that it was my privilege to be the very first director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs responsible for our relations with the Asia Pacific region. And indeed, I was deeply involved in the preparation of Bangabandhu's visit to Japan. I helped in writing the speeches that he delivered in Japan. And prior to his visit, I spent 3 weeks in Japan, engaged in discussions and preparations for the visit. We had an excellent visit from Mr. Nagano, which was one of the highest level visits ever made by an economic delegation from Japan to any country. And that laid the foundations for what has been an extremely productive and successful partnership. It was therefore, I would say, a happy coincidence that I had the pleasure as Foreign Secretary of preparing the very first visit to Japan as Prime Minister of Sheikh Hasina, and then accompanied her on that visit. And I have every confidence that Japan-Bangladesh relations will continue to prosper and flourish in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Farid Sovan, for those comments. Now, I would like to request Mr. Soyed Yusuf Sadat, who is a research fellow at the Center for Policy Dialogue, to make a presentation which we have prepared at the center. So after that, I will come back to the audience and the speakers again. So Yusuf, 15 to 20 minutes highest. Thank you. He will have to skip the slides. Yeah. Yeah. At the most 20 minutes. Yes. The slides will be have been distributed and it's available on the website, so it doesn't have to go through each of them.
Okay, thank you, madam, and good morning, distinguished guests and panelists. I will just go straight into the presentation due to shortage of time. And our topic of the presentation is the same as that of the dialogue, Bangladesh-Japan partnership for the next development journey. And we have done this research over the past few months, and our research team included Dr. Fahmida Khatun and also myself and two of my colleagues, Ms. Kashfia Ashraf and Ms. Afrin Mahbub. And in this paper, we have looked into 4 main issues: the trading relationship between Bangladesh and Japan, the development assistance of Japan to Bangladesh, and also the foreign direct investment of Japan in Bangladesh. And finally, we looked into the 4 IR issues, the 4th industrial revolution, and how Japan and Bangladesh can cooperate in the way forward. So as already we have talked about Bangladesh-Japan ties, I wouldn't go into this in too much detail, but Japan was one of the first countries in the world to recognize Bangladesh, and this recognition was quite important at that time for us. And we, during the post-liberation period, we found that there was a whole of society support from Japan for Bangladesh's independence, so much so that even the school children of Japan donated their tiffin money for the war-affected people of Bangladesh. And so we are now we're moving into a new development journey. Over the past 50 years, we have had a very strong economic partnership with Japan, but now we are moving into a new development journey, which we are going to go through, and that will be characterized by our graduation from the least developed country status, and also by facing all the challenges from the 4th industrial revolution. So on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh-Japan relationships, we are now going to look into how this relationship will evolve in the next part of the journey in the coming days. So our research will look into the areas which I discussed already. So I'll move into trade in the beginning. So Bangladesh's export to Japan has increased over the years. And apart from US and EU, Japan is one of the major trading partners for Bangladesh. This is quite significant in the sense that Japan is a very quality sensitive country. And so for a country like Bangladesh to export to Japan and also increasingly export to Japan, it shows that our producers have also over the years become more and more, quality compliant, and they have also increased the quality of the products to meet the needs of Japanese consumers. At the same time, our imports from Japan has increased. This has also significant in the sense that Japan is a very technologically advanced country. As most of you know, it produces high technology, high value goods like cars, cameras, and all those things. So our imports from Japan, if they increase, it also signifies that our purchasing power has also increased over the years. And Bangladesh's exports to Japan are mostly its traditional exports, mostly its RMG, textiles, and footwear. The top 5 exports are that of Bangladesh to Japan. And in terms of import of goods from Japan, Bangladesh imports obviously cars and automobile vehicles and other machineries, some iron and steel from Japan. And if we look into the export basket of Bangladesh to Japan, we'll see that it is dominated by ready-made garments and textiles. Almost 83% is ready-made garments and textiles. And this concentration is actually increasing over the years, whereas the concentration of footwear is actually falling, but it's still one of the top exports, but it's falling. And the same goes with fisheries, that is also falling over the years. And we also looked into the potential exports, like actual versus potential, like what do we actually export to Japan and which are the areas where we have the greatest potential for export. And we found that Bangladesh has huge potential for export of t-shirts and vests, men's trousers, jerseys. So mostly RMG and footwear industry, we have a huge potential for export in Japan. But obviously for that, we have to meet the high standards and quality requirements that Japanese consumers want. Similarly, we also looked from the other way around. Japan has also good potential of exporting automobiles, especially diesel powered trucks to Bangladesh. And in terms of machinery, also Japan has certain goods which it has untapped export potential for Bangladesh. So trade between Bangladesh and Japan, as Ms. Kathy Matsui mentioned, it can be complementary, and there is a lot of scope for increasing this trade. And so I'll just skip a few things. And Bangladesh and Japan have adopted a comprehensive economic partnership in 2014, which is significant for increasing bilateral trade and economic cooperation. And as a least developed country, Bangladesh did get some LDC specific benefits from Japan. Specifically, it's 97.9% of its export goods were made duty-free and quota-free. And so this is very significant because after our LDC graduation, we will no longer get these benefits. So this necessitates the need to sign a bilateral trading agreement with Japan in view of our LDC graduation, because after our graduation, if the status quo remains, then we will have to face MFN tariffs on our exports, which will be much higher than what we are facing right now. Japan obviously is the most largest development partner of Bangladesh, and Japanese ODA to Bangladesh has increased over the years, and Japan is by far the largest partner in terms of ODA. And Japan supports Bangladesh's aspirations to build a just, egalitarian, and affluent society that is less reliant on foreign aid, but it strengthens its economic and technological power. And not only Japan's ODA to Bangladesh has increased, in terms of the global ODA that Japan provides to the rest of the world, we also see that Japan's ODA to Bangladesh as a share of Japan's ODA to the rest of the world has also increased, which shows that Bangladesh's importance to Japan has also increased over the years. And a lot of active loans are there at this moment from Japan. And most of these loans, as you will see, are used for financing big industrial projects like energy sector projects, transportation projects, and also some airport expansion. This has already been mentioned by our Honorable Ambassador. So these loans are already there, and these are financing some huge mega infrastructure projects in Bangladesh. Japan also provides lots of active grants to Bangladesh, which are provided mostly to develop the capacity of human resources. And these grants are there for natural disaster management, search and rescue, for safety and food security, and so on and forth. Japan is unique among the OECD countries in that it provides debt relief grant assistance to Bangladesh. And debt relief grant assistance to Bangladesh has increased, but recently it has started falling because Bangladesh's ability to repay its loans has also increased. So if we look at foreign direct investment of Japan from to Bangladesh, we see that foreign direct investment was the highest in 2013. It has increased over the years. And foreign direct investment from Japan is mainly into textiles and clothing, power, gas and petroleum, and also in construction. However, we could bring in a lot more foreign direct investment from Japan if we can if we can increase the ease of doing business in Bangladesh. Specifically, if we could reduce the time and cost for doing business in the major cities of Bangladesh. From our research, we found that it is quite time consuming to start a business in Dhaka and Chittagong. Also getting construction permits, getting electricity or trading across borders, all of these processes all of these things have multiple processes and they take a long time, or they are quite expensive also. And many of these, I think in the coming days, in the fourth industrial revolution, many of these, if we can move online, because Bangladesh already has gone into digital Bangladesh, we already have a great mobile financial services network going on. So if we can use that, and if we can move many of these services online, then we can increase the ease of doing business, and that will bring in more Japanese investment into Bangladesh. As already mentioned, the Japanese economic zone is being built in Araihazar in Nayanganj. It's around 1,000 acres of land. And this is going to be one of the major industrial hubs of Bangladesh in the coming days. And however, we feel that the JZ needs more support in terms of transport infrastructure, because by the time it will be complete, it will become a major industrial hub. And so it will need better road, rail, and river connectivity than what is present at this moment. And from the pre-feasibility study reports, we found that by 2034, the most optimistic scenario, by 2034, the JZ will be completed, and there will be 128 industrial units, and they will produce a large number of variety of goods, and they will employ more than 60,000 workers. So technical cooperation between Bangladesh and Japan has been great over the years. However, we find that if we look into the historical path of Japan, then we find that in Japan, there were two periods where there was major progress, especially in the 1868, there was the Meiji Restoration, where Japan really invested and focused a lot on education. And after the Second World War in 1950s onwards, there was the Japanese economic miracle, where Japan emerged as a technological leader of the world. So these decades and these time periods give us a lot to learn from Japan, because investing in education early on allowed it to reap the benefits of technological progress later. And so Bangladesh also needs to do that. And if we look into the medium and high-tech industries in Bangladesh, we find that Bangladesh, as it is focusing a lot on RMG, the medium and high-tech industries as a share of manufacturing value added in Bangladesh, it's not actually increasing much over the years. So in view of the fourth industrial revolution, we need to diversify our industrial and export base. And we need to bring in Japanese investment, which will invest more in medium and high-tech industry in Bangladesh. And also, FDI is not only going to bring in investment and create jobs, but FDI is also a vehicle for technology transfer. And we found that if we look into new patent applications in Bangladesh, starting from early 90s, we see that patent applications in Bangladesh have increased tremendously, and most of it was driven by foreign applications. So FDI can do that for Bangladesh. However, Bangladesh will have to face a number of challenges during the fourth industrial revolution, such as the digital divide and inequality, cybersecurity threats, and all those problems. However, fourth industrial revolution will bring in lot of benefits as well, in terms of providing economic opportunities for people and opening up new markets for Bangladesh. In the way forward, the Japanese-Bangladesh diplomatic relationship can be taken ahead through signing a bilateral trading agreement between Bangladesh and Japan, and also the Big B initiative, which is the Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt Initiative, that will also transform Bangladesh in many ways in terms of industrialization and economic development. And the Japanese economic zone in Araihazar can also be an industrial hub and also a place where innovation will occur. After the LDC graduation, like we mentioned, there will be a period when we if we cannot sign a trade agreement now, we will have to face higher tariffs. So at this point, I think as the trade negotiations are going on, Bangladesh can also negotiate with Japan for providing a smooth transition period, similar to what EU is providing, like 3 years, so that we can move out of the LDC group smoothly and also then go into a trading agreement later. And a number of steps have to be followed according to WTO rules to establish a trade agreement, but this takes a lot of time. So this needs to start right now. Otherwise, it will not be finished on time. And like our previous speaker mentioned, that Bangladesh and Japan are complementary in many different ways. And one of this is in terms of demographics. Japan, as you know, has one of the highest life expectancies in the world. And it also has a large population of elderly people who are in need of care workers and nurses and healthcare workers. Whereas Bangladesh has a very young population, average age is less than 30 to 26. So Bangladesh can potentially be a country which can send care workers and nurses to Japan. However, for that, we need support from the Japanese side as well. And also we need to bring in the Japanese training centers in Bangladesh. They can do this for us. And this can be mutually beneficial for both Bangladesh and Japan. And so how can we bring in more foreign direct investment from Japan into Bangladesh? Well, there are many ways, but we feel that we need clear incentives. We have lots of incentives in place, but we need to make it very clear that these are all the benefits which foreign investors will get in Bangladesh. And we can do this by translating them in Japanese language also. And we need to provide a conducive environment for foreign investment. And at the same time, we need to make sure that all our processes, rules, regulations, and policies are very streamlined with each other. They don't conflict with each other. And Japanese investors at present face some problems in Bangladesh. And if we feel that if we can solve these problems for them, then through positive word of mouth, we will get more investment from Japan. And the role of education, this is something I want to emphasize. Like I mentioned earlier, that during the Meiji period, Japan invested heavily in education. And because of that, Japan had good skills and technological base, which it could use later on during the Japanese economic miracle. And during the Meiji period, education was made compulsory for everyone. Bangladesh also made education compulsory in the early 90s and also provided female education stipend. But overall, I think the Bangladesh education system needs to be rehauled. And in terms of bringing it onto the par of the Japanese system, there's still a long way to go, but there's never too late to start. And I think now is the time, given that the fourth industrial revolution is here. And in conclusion, I feel that Bangladesh-Japan partnership has been mutually beneficial, and it has been a win-win partnership in the last 5 decades. And following LDC graduation, Bangladesh will need to increase its productivity and diversify its economic base. And for that, Japan and Bangladesh can cooperate and take this relationship forward. And in the era of the fourth industrial revolution and beyond LDC graduation, Japan will continue to be an important and strategic partner for Bangladesh. And like we previously mentioned, there is huge untapped potential for Bangladeshi exports to Japan. For that, we have to bring our goods and products to the quality that Japanese consumers want. Similarly, there's also untapped potential for many Japanese exports to Bangladesh. And for that also, we can bring in more FDI from Japan. That will be helpful for us. And the Japanese economic zone also has very good prospects for generating employment and being a vehicle of technological transfer. And so in terms of trade, the most important issue would be to start trade talks straight away, because now is the time, the LDC graduation is coming. We need to move to bilateral trading agreements with our important partners, and Japan is certainly one of them. In terms of FDI, we need to increase the ease of doing business by reducing the time and cost which is required for doing business in Bangladesh, and also automating a lot of the processes by bringing them online, so reduce the time and cost. In terms of the JEZ, we said that the Japanese economic zone is going to be an industrial hub for Bangladesh, and as a result, we need to support it with better surrounding infrastructure in terms of connectivity with roads, railways, and highways, and so on. And during the fourth industrial revolution, a reform of the education system is going to be a primary concern for Bangladesh, because that is how Japan actually capitalized on its economic miracle. because it had a good education system to start with. And so Bangladesh needs to go into that and support education in science, technology, and mathematics, especially for women. And so there is a possibility Bangladesh cannot adopt all the technology from Japan immediately, but also to absorb all this technology, we need the skilled human resources who can work with this technology and put it into good use. So this is more or less it. So thank you, everyone, and we will talk more.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. That was an excellent presentation, and you also finished within your timeline. In fact, yeah, it has highlighted a number of areas. I don't want to, repeat those because we have a number of. Yes, I think it has, covered almost all the aspects. In fact, and how the collaboration in case of trade, investment, and other economic aspects that have increased over time, and also how Japan has made its way forward. We have seen that they had heavily invested on education, skills development, technology, so which we have a lot to learn actually. So in fact, we are, in case of education, Japan has been providing also support to for education. At this point in time, in fact, one of our young colleagues from CPD is pursuing her PhD in Japan. So anyway, I would now like to go to the panel discussion session. Dr. Khundukar Ghulam Muazzam, he was supposed to speak later, but he has another meeting. So I would like to request Dr. Khundukar Ghulam Muazzam, who is the research director of CPD, to make his remark in 5 minutes. And by the way, he has also studied in Japan. So he's also a product of Japan.
Thank you, Chair. In fact, I would like to start with that point. In fact, Bangladesh-Japan partnership and its outcome, you may find it by myself. In fact, I have been graduated from the Kyoto University, Kyoto Daigaku, and I have been, completed their Hakase Katei doctorate from there, and now working in Bangladesh. So thank you to the Japanese government to make this contribution to Bangladesh's development. And thereby I could actually make the contribution to for the development of my country. And that relationship has continued over time. And I returned from Japan in 2003, almost 20 years back. And later on, I went there for a postdoctoral fellowship in 2009 in Center for Southeast Asian Studies. And that time, my thesis was, and there was a publication on Bangladesh-Japan partnership based on that fellowship, is that Japan's China +1 policy and how Bangladesh could take the benefit of that. And I am sure you are familiar with that. Japan increasingly, taking interest to other Asian countries outside China and to expand its trade business. And where Bangladesh, that time, it was in 2009, was relatively less known. And the Uniqlo brand that you are actually now familiar with in Bangladesh, that time I visited the first retailing company's headquarters, the company which is on the Uniqlo brand. And that time they mentioned that how they're actually putting emphasis outside China, particularly their interest that time was on Vietnam, then it is on, and also partially on Bangladesh. And now the data and the presentation that made by Mr. Yusuf Sadat, you have seen that over the last 1 decade, how tremendously Japanese trade investments has increased in Bangladesh. In fact, what I like to mention, over the last 5 decades, you see that Japan is always ahead of the curve in terms of partnership, whether in bilateral partnership, I would say. Always I found this, it's ahead of the curve, whether it's in terms of aid, whether it's in terms of the rural development or socioeconomic development, we always found Japan there. And now in the next journey, what I heard that maybe by today or yesterday, they have signed an agreement with BESA authority to initiate the Araihazar export processing zone, which will start in next year, in 2023, while the other bilateral economic zone initiative have been started with other countries, but we have found Japan to be start before those initiatives. So thank you, Japan, for taking these initiatives forward, and we are looking forward to Japanese investments and other investments in Arai Hajar, which will definitely make a significant contribution in Bangladesh's industrialization process. And what we are expecting that these investments will definitely not only focusing on the consumer goods market, but also on the machineries, on the electronics, on the raw materials, which are also necessary for Bangladesh for its next level of industrialization process. So we are looking forward to that. But we understand that the partnership is at a new level, particularly when Bangladesh will graduate in 2026. Bangladesh will no longer enjoy that time the preferential market access that we are now currently enjoying. This duty-free market access will no longer be there. So what would happen then? We have to consider that, and we have to strategize how we could actually build the economic partnership with Japan, particularly in terms of the trade point of view and investment point of view. So what I'd like to actually request that Bangladesh government, particularly Honorable Planning Minister Sir is here, and definitely what we know that Bangladesh government is already taking initiative for strategizing the post-graduation economic partnership initiatives, and definitely Japan-Bangladesh economic partnership should have to be taken seriously. And what I'd like to suggest is that we need to consider some sorts of a broader economic partnership with Japan, not necessarily confining with trade, but also in investment and service, considering the labor market issue that you have already heard from the presentation. So we need to actually focus on that part as well. In terms of other partnerships, I think in the future course of journey, Bangladesh-Japan partnership may not be confined only on the economic front. I'm seeing that, and already Honorable Ambassador also indicated something that the partnerships will be more strategic issues, and we have to not only on a neutral economic part, but we may have to take positions on the strategic issues and on the political issues point of view. So in the Bay of Bengal region, Japan's initiative of the Big B there, and Bangladesh also have some initiatives with China, under which the Belt and Road Initiative is currently ongoing. And there is another initiative from the India on Sagarmala. All are actually based on the Bay of Bengal region. So how Bangladesh will take its strategies, set its strategies, is definitely will be very, very important in the coming decades. So I think government will definitely consider that its strategies by much deeper partnership with Japan, as well as maintaining cooperation partnership with other important countries within the region. So I'm sure that in the future, collaboration and partnership with Japan will move forward, and Bangladesh will grow in the coming decades. So with these words, I'd like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khundukar Ghulam Azim, for your valuable remarks. Now I would like to call upon Dr. Just forgive my pronunciation, Tatsufumi Yamagata, who is a professor at College of Asia Pacific Studies. He is joining from Japan. He has been connected. Okay. So over to you, Professor. If you can make your speech within 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Tatsufumi Yamagata, a professor of the Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate the 50 years anniversary of the Bangladesh-Japan diplomatic relations. I myself benefited that good relation between Bangladesh and Japan. I was visiting fellow of the Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies in 2000. Since then, I have visited Bangladesh so many times. Then always Bangladesh people welcomed me. Then I continued to be involved in the research as well as international cooperation through the Embassy of Japan, as well as Jaiga, JETRO, so that I'm very much happy to be here to make a comments on the this dialogue. I have one point to talk today, even though I have 2 slides with me. I was impressed by the report of the Dr. Sadat made a presentation and made by CPD. Then it was mainly focused on the what to do at the Bangladesh side. However, I'd like to talk about what the Japan side to do with this presentation. Don't worry, I have just 2 slides. So number 1, I think that Bangladesh has already achieved a certain level of industrialization, in the sense that Bangladesh steadily climbed up ladder of industrialization. RMG is the first step. However, light engineering, shipbuilding, pharmaceuticals, all those will be counted as the second ladders. And transition or expansion, diversification of the industrial structure from the highly labor-intensive parts of industry to a little bit capital-intensive, technology-intensive parts of industry will be counted as a second step of the industrialization. And I think Bangladesh has already stepped up to the second level. And that is what ASEAN foreigners have already made. Recently, I found a great achievement by some of impressive Bangladeshi company. One was Square Pharmaceutical, started the production of COVID-19 drug, molnupiravir, which is a cutting-edge product of which patent is opened by Merck, one of the globally reputed pharmaceutical company. Then the production of molnupiravir already started in Bangladesh. I remember it was the first production outside Merck. The second example, which I was impressed very much, comes from Walton, now which is known as a super factory, featured by National Geographic, which exported a compressor of refrigerator and air conditioners to Turkey. Assembling machinery will be the first step of industrialization. However, Walton has stepped up to the higher level, producing core parts of electronical apparatus. Those also counted as achievement of the manufacturing industry of Bangladesh. So that from my perspective, Bangladesh has made substantial progresses in terms of industrialization. However, I regret to say that the Japanese do not know very well about the achievement, and somehow, I mean, the regrettable incidents such as Rana Plaza collapse in 2013, cafe attack in 2016, and COVID-19 impressed the Japanese and keep a certain weak image to Bangladesh, so that changing the image of the Japanese will be a challenge, which will be given to the Japanese side of delegates as well as myself. In fact, once Japanese was known as a so-called economic animal, it was known in the 1960s. And at that time, Japan's economy grown as the second largest economy in the world. Then the aggressiveness and high ambition were kind of considered the negative aspects of the Japanese work habit, too much work hard and do not think about standard of life, so that there was a backlash or reaction to the aggressiveness, so that the Japanese tends to be more conservative than before. I think that is the challenges the Japanese facing, and the Japanese need to address the that part of the conservatism. Then my point is that the dynamism of Bangladesh is widely known among people, Japanese people living in Bangladesh. For example, I mean the officers in the embassy, Jaiga, JETRO people very well understood the dynamism of Bangladesh in industrialization. However, we have a difficulty to convince the ordinary Japanese to know more about the dynamism and the achievement of Bangladesh. So that that is a challenge for the Japanese, and to address the problem, enhancing the image of Bangladesh. One recommendation I have in mind is that notifying the wide commitment of neighboring country of Japan, such as China and Korea, into Bangladesh, should be informed and notified for the ordinary Japanese as well as politicians and heads of company of Japan. That might be useful to more inform the great achievement of Bangladesh economy. Thank you very much. That is the end of my comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tatsufumi Yamagata, for these valuable remarks. In fact, your recommendation that we need to publicize more Bangladesh's industrial achievement, not only Bangladesh's industrial achievement, I think all achievements in economic and social fronts. And Japan has been doing that on behalf of Bangladesh. I think you are also one of the representatives who is promoting Bangladesh's achievement in Japan. Thank you once again. Now I would like to call upon Dr. Kenta Goto, who is also a professor of Faculty of Economics at Kansai University. He is joining from Japan. So over to you, Dr. Goto.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Kenta Goto. I'm from Kansai University. I'm actually sitting in Osaka. And I want to firstly congratulate on the 50th anniversary of Japan-Bangladesh diplomatic relations, and also extend a sincere appreciation to the organizers for inviting me to this very important dialogue. I have to say I'm very ashamed that I've never had the opportunity to visit Bangladesh yet. But the first speaker of the session, when Moazem-san was writing his dissertation at Kyoto University almost 20 years ago, I was actually sitting next to him writing mine. So Bangladesh feels very close to me, and I'm really looking forward to visiting your country, hopefully in the near future. So about the presentation, thank you very much for the presentation, which I found was very comprehensive and important. And I'm going to probably limit my comments to issues related to global value chains. And I think, the trade and investment relationships today is increasingly embedded in value chains, how they are configured, how they evolve. And Bangladesh's position reflecting international comparative advantages at the process of functional level is really what has been manifesting as in terms of the large ready-made garment exports. So that is a pure reflection of international comparative advantages. And I have two short comments to make in this respect. First is that while connection to global value chains will provide possibilities for upgrading, this is not an automatic process. So, research related to global value chains has been suggesting recently that the linkages of local businesses with opportunities to enhance skills or knowledge through, for example, local training institutes or more broadly national innovation systems is of crucial importance. And I think there was quite a lot of mentioning in the presentation that we all heard before. And I think so that's a key area for maybe Japan-Bangladesh cooperation in the future. And the second is that competitiveness is now increasingly determined not just by cost considerations, but also by new variables, such as on how the particular processes or functions in the production flow is conducted. So in the value chain, people undertake different kind of functions, and in Bangladesh, that is probably cut, make, and trim, labor-intensive functions. And but the point is that how the businesses are really managing those functions. And one of the key issues here is sustainability, in which both environmental concerns as well as the social dimensions have become more important than ever. It's really becoming the key to determine whether a local company or local business, local economy is able to get included into the global value chains and further sustainably upgrade. So one of the key, the business practices that are in line with, for example, decent work has been attracting attention as good practices. And especially, I think there has been a growing acknowledgement that they are actually pro-business, that they are good business practices, that they're completely aligned with good business practices. And these issues are now also hotly discussed in Japan. And one of the key issues that's been debated in the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry in Tokyo is about how to sort of reorganize maybe all the economic, industrial related policies around human rights, for example. And then, but this is presenting new challenges, and it's also highlighting new opportunities for Japan, which probably means that it is also going to highlight new opportunities for Bangladesh too. And particularly relevant for Bangladesh, I think Professor Yamagata also mentioned the horrible Rana Plaza accident in 2013. And I vividly remember when I went to Geneva with Professor Yamagata to make a presentation at World Trade Organization. Yamagata Sensei made the presentation, but about 95% of the discussions were evolving around the Rana Plaza accident. So, and this was a major turning point to alert governments and businesses as well as consumers globally to rethink how businesses should be conducted and how lack of sustainability concerns could lead to devastating results, which actually could set back the entire development prospects anywhere, including Bangladesh and also Japan. So I think that in this respect, there'll be exciting opportunities ahead for fruitful Bangladesh-Japan cooperation to promote such good practices. I don't mean to say that, this is one stream flow where Japan is going to transmit whatever knowledge it has, but I think I see it more as a sort of bi-directional exchange of ideas and trying to implement good practices, good knowledge together, which would constitute the key source of innovation and competitiveness. So I'm going to probably stop here, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Kentagoto, for your remarks, very useful remarks, and you have made a number of important observations on Bangladesh's development, including Bangladesh's ready-made garment sector, and also how it is moving um, forward and making advancements since some of the incidences you have mentioned, and also Professor Yamagata mentioned. Thank you once again for joining us from Japan. Now we would be back to the room now. I would now like to request Mr. Asif Chaudhary, who is the president of Japan Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So if you can make your remarks in 5 minutes, we are increasingly running out of time. So we have our special guests and chief guests and also the audience. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would be very precise and be within 5 minutes time. It gives me immense pleasure to be here, and thank you CPD for doing this seminar, and special thanks to Mr. Sadat for a nice presentation. I come from a private sector. I would definitely talk something from the private sector. As we know, we are all talking about 4 industrial revolution, but question is, are we fully ready? In order to be fully ready, we have to act fast. I mean, there are problems, there are challenges, but we have to overcome. And I'm sure government is looking into it, and the Honorable Planning Minister is here. I know he is very vocal, and he means business. If you ask most of the private sector investors or businessmen, what are the major problems of doing business in Bangladesh? I think most of them will say the majority problem lies with NBR. When I say NBR, it's a customs, it's a VAT, it's an income tax. These are the major problem we face. Problem at the bottom, not on the top. Down the line, I think we have to have capacity building for the lower end government officials. If you go to the higher ups, they do understand the problems, but they are not the one who is trying to solve the problem. It goes and pass on to the lower level, and where it gets stuck, really stuck. So if the Honorable Minister can help us to find a way so that the business will flourish and government will earn their revenue from the taxes. As we are moving forward from LDC country, we have to move fast. We have to do FTA with various countries, especially with Japan. Japan at the moment has 20 plus FTA with different countries. So it's not the Japan, it's us who have to act aggressively, precisely, and do it fast. Maybe our problem could be capacity building. We don't have knowledge of doing FTA. Maybe we should look into it and have a special cell for FTA like we have done in the past for WTO cell. Another problem I see in Bangladesh, wherever the government officials are there after a few months or few years, they move on. For FTA, APA, I think there should be a minimum duration of officer so that things will move fast. And corruption is another thing. I'm not saying that any country is out of corruption, but corruption should be under the table. At the moment, I'm sorry to say, at the moment, if you go customs, port, because I myself come from a shipping background, we are into Japanese K-Line joint venture. So we deal with port and customs on a day-to-day basis. And I can say the corruption has rampant. It's going out of hand. And it should be stopped now. And if you're looking at 100 plus EPZ coming up in the future, if this corruption rate goes on, you can imagine what's going to happen after these 100 are in operation. So with these few remarks, these are not complaints, these are observation from day to day. And I would suggest or request Honorable Minister to do something about it. And at the last, we would say, if you can't help us, don't give us trouble. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asif Chaudhary, for your very open and candid observations indeed. I think the Honorable Minister has taken note of these, the importance, of course, the importance of FTAs in the new trade regime is so important, and we need to prepare for that. And you have made recommendations that, the skills and capacity of officials, and also the stability of officials, and so that, they don't move very frequently once they have the capacity and skills, and also the issue of, ease of, you touched upon the issue of ease of doing business, which includes reduction of corruption. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to request Mr. Yoho Hayakawa, who is the Chief Representative of Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, in Bangladesh.
Thank you very much. At first, thank you so much for having me in this wonderful event. Previous speakers already discussed various perspectives, so I will say a few words about development cooperation between JICA and Bangladesh. JICA started our cooperation to Bangladesh in 1973, just after the independence, by sending 3 volunteers. At the early stage, we focused on agriculture and rural development and some industrial projects. And gradually, we expanded its coverage to various sectors and expanded the volume. As you know, we are now assisting mega projects like MRT, Bongobon Railway Bridge, Terminal 3 development of Hazrat Shah Jalal Airport, Matabari, and so on. And we also have supported water supply system, for example, in Chittagong, which is now being inaugurated today. Now, according to the development cooperation policy of Japanese government, we have 2 pillars in Bangladesh accelerating. One is accelerating the inclusive growth, and the other is overcoming social vulnerabilities. And based on this direction, in social sector, we have collaborated nationwide in the areas of health, maternity health, infectious diseases, primary and technical education, microfinance for small farmers, disaster management, and building safety after a Rana Plaza incident, and so on. So it's really a comprehensive cooperation. And there are more than 14,000 Bangladeshi officials participated in JICA's training program in the past. And there are nearly 1,300 volunteers, Japanese volunteers, have worked with people on the ground in this country. And there, as you know well, in the Japanese fiscal year 2021, Bangladesh became the largest recipient of JICA's ODA loan among all recipient countries worldwide. And there, from the viewpoint of Bangladesh, in fiscal year 2020-21, JICA's ODA disbursement to Bangladesh became the largest in this country in comparison with other bilateral as well as multilateral development partners, including World Bank and ADB. So Japan and Bangladesh are literally the largest development partner each other now. Of course, the partnership between Japan and Bangladesh is much broader than ODA, as previous speakers already demonstrated. We are also trying to improve our aid modalities and instruments so that we can collaborate with wider and dynamic partners, with NGOs, with social business, with private companies, universities, joint researches, PPP infrastructure for better and sustainable development. And we believe our role is actually changing from providing funds and technologies to catalytic function, such as mobilizing external resources, particularly from private sectors. How to unleash the enormous energy and resources of private sector is the key for this country. promotion of FDI and business environment improvement is also one of these efforts. And in future, I think the development cooperation between the two countries will become more mutual and two-way, like mutual learning and supplementation among between two countries. I mean, the demographic structure was already mentioned. So, for example, we have a program called BJET, which provides 3-month intensive training of Japanese languages for young ICT engineers, and they are working now with Japanese companies. And Bangladesh itself also started its cooperation for other countries like Sri Lanka and the Maldives. So in future, we may start the triangular cooperation to other countries. It's really great to imagine that one day Japan and Bangladesh supporting other countries hand in hand. And a few days back, I had a chance to talk to a group of young civil servants of the government, and one official asked me a question: why Bangladesh has become so important, such an important and large partner of Jaiga? And it was not a simple question to answer, but I pointed out 3 aspects. First one is strong bonds and human affinity backed by cultural and social similarity and nurtured by long and comprehensive cooperation and economic ties. Shared experiences of recovery from the repeated disasters and devastation by war. And secondly, the large development needs Bangladesh has, reducing the poverty and then graduating LDC status is a great challenge. But the next challenge is also waiting ahead to keep this constant development trajectory and to achieve no one left behind. And we are ready to keep working together. And the third one, and I think most important, is the stable position and the policies of Bangladesh in this region as a democratic and peace-loving nation. There are great changes of global architecture and geopolitics, as His Excellency mentioned. But Bangladesh is always, and I believe it will also, be a great and trusted friend of Japan from now on. And the bilateral relationship is comprehensive and is getting more strategic. And personally, I think this bilateral relationship is, and will be beyond the strategy. It is more broad and more deep and simple in a sense. People to people affinity, mutual trust and respect, and broad, deep, and very natural friendship, which will be further developed in future, I believe. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hayakawa, for these remarks. Our designated panelists have spoken already, so now we will be going to the closing session, but before that, I would like to open the floor for a few minutes. So if you have any remarks or a question to any of the panelists, please do so, but very briefly, so that we can accommodate many. Yes. Okay, yes, including not only Bangladesh. Yes, I see a lot of, thank you, Excellency, for pointing out that I see a lot of Bangladeshi participants' hand, but I would also encourage the Japanese participants to, pose questions, and also other nationals. So each and everyone, please feel free. Yeah, I see. Yes, I see the Deputy Chief of Mission of Australian High Commission. Yes, thank you for joining. So please feel free to make a comment or pose a question or your observations, whatever. Please. Yes, I will come back to you because you are privileged. So please. Yes, I see. Please, please identify yourself, just introduce yourself and then talk so that we know who's speaking.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kunio Takamido. I'm coming from the Nipro JMI Medicals. The Nipro Corporation in Japan has been made a large investment in Bangladesh healthcare sectors in the local company JMI groups. So last 10 years, we have 3 manufacturing locations in Bangladesh and making the pharmaceutical and medical devices and supporting to the private sectors, private hospitals, also the government hospitals. So I'm very surprised to hear about your observations, including the customs, for many other things, there's a difficulties involved to sourcing the materials, to import the product, to making the product, also to deliver the product. There's so many difficulties, including many corruptions. And at the end of the day, I think end users or patient, hospital is suffered by these things. And upon growing the economies, needs of the healthcare is also increasing more and more. So taking this opportunity, we really like to hear or like to have some corporations, how to make these things easier for everybody else. And at the end of the day, patient or user get to the benefit from the both Bangladesh and Japan's. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this observation and also a small query probably. So yes, please. Microphone টা ওনার কাছে নিয়ে যান একটু খুব fast. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Kawai, President of the Japanese Shokokai, Japanese Commerce and Industry Association of the Dhaka. So I'm the President of the Japanese Companies Association. Thank you very much for the panelist speech and delivery message. I quite agree and understand the relation between Japan and Bangladesh has been a very nice and very supportive or comprehensive or complementary relation. It's growing very good. But I stayed here for 3 years. Then I understand now is the time to go into the another stage. So 2014, comprehensive cooperation agreement was signed, but it's come to a strategic relations. So, but the question is, as a private companies, we are always thinking how to attract Japanese, because most of Japanese companies looking for the globally. It means that we need to compare to which is better, either Bangladesh or India, Bangladesh to Thailand or Bangladesh to Indonesia. So we need to, and Indonesia or Vietnam is very closer to Japan compared to Bangladesh. So we need to appeal more how Bangladesh is attractive. But Bangladesh sides also need to present more. And the incentive or good labor and very hardworking or very good human resource. So we know, and most of the Japanese know, but always bad news is very impressive to humans. So always news, not so much good news is published. Always bad news is more coming the front. So as the JBCCI president mentioned, such a small bad things is always in our memories. So if more good appeal, our side also, your side also, then we can be a second stage. And this year is the 50th anniversary of Japan, Bangladesh, and the MRT will be coming up. Arai Hazard, Japan Economic Zone is coming up. Jamuna Bridge is coming up. So we are ready to be a next stage. So if so, we want to collaborate each other, how we appeal Japanese investor, how we can win other countries around this area. Of course, we need to collaborate, but we need to appeal more. Otherwise, so Indonesia or other ASEAN is very closer. That is what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. very important, valuable points you have highlighted once again. Yes, at the back, second row. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. I'm Kader from Toshiba Asia Pacific, representing the Toshiba's office in Bangladesh. Thank you very much, all of all. Just I would like to take very short time. Just two things I would, first of all, I would like to address Ito-san's comments. Maybe this is the 5th time I have heard the one thing that the very important thing the Japanese companies is facing or they are arguing Bangladesh regarding the TT payments. So it's one of the session I have very fortunate to participate in that session. Honorable Prime Minister's industry advisor, Mr. Salman F. he's also there. He also addressed that it will recover soon. Maybe it was in 3rd quarter of 2020. It's still the same thing as we have heard from Ito-san. So as our honorable minister is there, so maybe he cannot say, but at least just to inform him that it is a thing we need to notice. And another important thing, just to directly, I would ask honorable ministers that 50 years of anniversary, this is a very numerical 55s are very easy, but I think 50 years is we nurtured Japan and Bangladesh. Now it's time to explore. So Japan is ready to provide their hands. Are we ready? I mean, if I can recall that during the time of industrial supporting from Korea, there was a training center, Bangladesh Korean Training Center. There is also another from German. We are telling about the 2,500. Many industries coming. So considering this, did we target anything that's what sort of industry is coming? And do we have the preparation to provide skilled, I'll not say work labor, I will say skilled worker or manpower. Is there any planning or is there any opportunity from our side that we build such a thing that we can provide the industries of Japanese that who will come, you don't need to come with your worker, just provide your expert. We are ready to provide our skilled manpower.
Okay,
something like this.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the recommendation and also observation. I see at the back. Yes, second row, and then I'm coming to you. Sure. Yes, yeah, very brief, please. Yeah.
Hello, this is Toshihide Yuda. I'm CEO of K2 Logistics Bangladesh, and I came to Bangladesh for 10 years back. And my company, K2 Logistics Bangladesh, established 13 years back from now, 2009. And we were a very tiny little company, starting with 37 staff members, like a venture company. But now we have 1,000 staff members and sending our QC team to 80 factories every day. And this is us. And, as in the presentation said that Japanese people had kind of prejudice about Bangladesh. And we have to melt down this prejudice. For example, before I went to Bangladesh, my boss said, oh, Bangladesh people are very lazy. So you have to be careful. But actually not. Actually not. And for example, my partner sent me price quotation last night, midnight, to catch up customers' needs. Bangladesh is such a people that I know, we know. Point is, we need to publicizing the quality of Bangladesh people to Japanese investors. This is most important thing. And also on Bangladesh side needs to be more transparent in process, including we have to think about say
Yes.
many things, yes.
Yeah, anti many things, yes.
Many things, but
Many weaknesses.
have huge potential. I then I and also now it's time to stop use precious manpower as a mass. For example, we have 1,000 staff members, but at the day one, we give proper training and proper knowledge of quality and dispatch the factory from 5S and also basic quality issues and problems. We give a lecture to ordinary Bangladesh people and dispatch. And it works very well, actually. But in the normal, sorry to say, it sounds may sound rude, but in the, okay, then have to give more professional training to ordinary Bangladesh people that enhance Bangladesh quality and also at least branding the Bangladesh. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, very concrete suggestions. Compared to Japanese people, maybe we are a bit lazy, but not, I wouldn't, nobody would agree that we are lazy. But yes, we want to, go as far as you have gone. I see many hands. One person who raised hand before you, I'll come back to you and also come back to this side. Very briefly, now I would give you just 1 minute. Please finish your comments, questions within a minute.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Mohammad Jahangir Alam. I'm working at the University of Dhaka as an assistant professor. And would like to thank you, Sir Yusuf Sadat, for inviting me. And I was a little bit involved with this research, and I really found that very interesting. But however, based on the previous comments, and we should rethink about the gender-based lens, how Bangladesh is ready to address such situations. And as Kathy Masui also mentioned about the women economics, and for the government perspective, I think it is high time to think about the service process simplifications. So most of the cases, the services are not simplified. So that really makes the people, not from the Bangladesh side, but also the Japanese companies as well, facing difficulties. And the final comment I would like to mention, that is the human capital development. It is high time for Bangladesh even to being in the 4th industrial revolution. So it is time to prepare the human resources or the human capital and the gender disparity as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, please, on the second row. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is MD Abdul Razzaq. Actually, I say something very different. I was in Japan 6 years. I worked there and I proven there our Bengali, we are very transparent, laborious and workaholic. For that's why my group now, Japanese company already, $100 million US, the investment. For the last 13 years, now many company offer me to invest is here. So I fully agree with him, about the custom issues and some other issues there. All are, high official here, ambassador also here. My request also that we need some transparency from the government.
Thank you.
Then maybe Bangladesh will be success. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, I would here. Here, first row.
I am Mohammad Sohel. I'm standing committee chairman of BGMEA, and I'm a member of Japan Chamber. I just add with something little bit. I am asking Japan side, all the panelists, please give your attention in SME factories. There is a huge opportunity in Bangladesh. Because I am started as a textile, I exported Japan from 2009. That time I was a SME factory. My export was $3 million. K2 also, the CEO also, I'm his customer also. He is sending QC in my factory also. So from that place, I am now exporting at this moment almost 10 million. And out of 4 million, almost 40% to Japan market. So from the 2009 to journey of this area, I feel whatever that we are laborious, we are hardy, and the publics we are transparent also. But we have some barriers with the what everybody is telling here from the customs, NBRs. For SME factories, it becomes more heavier, not like the heavy industries which are not facing that. So doing business with Japan we need ourselves to reduce our local cost is most important, I feel. And as well as I ask Japan to trust us on SMEs, and you work with SMEs, give us training, give us your technical support. We'll obviously achieve your target with very with honor. We will give you the good goods, good export, and we'll achieve. We keep our Bangladesh go high.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you
much.
very much for that. So I see Mr. Kamranti Rahman. Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Famida Khatun. I would like to thank CPD for inviting me to this dialogue, which is very informative indeed. And I would like to compliment Mr. Sayed Yusuf Sadat for an excellent comprehensive presentation on Japan-Bangladesh trade relations and the way forward. Taking a cue from one of the points mentioned by Ms. Kathy, I was actually quite, I didn't know the figures, but what she mentioned was by 2050, the population of Japan between the age of 15 and 65 is going to reduce by 40%. And that's an enormous demographic change. And in this demographic change, Japan would also require a lot of foreign workers. Now, Bangladeshi people in general are quite easily trainable. They have been working overseas in many countries. And this is an area where Japan, Bangladesh policymakers can also look into, so that you can hire a lot of workers from Bangladesh. You see, Bangladesh has, although of course, it's a very densely populated country. Our total labor force is also not small. We have about 65 million people in our labor force, although most of them are in the informal sector. But there is a sizable number in the formal sector also. Now, if we can give them the skills that are actually required by Japanese hospitals, Japanese industries, we can provide them. But we would need your help in identifying the skills that will be required, and also make arrangements for those skills to be provided to our workers so that they can get jobs in Japan. Two other observations. We have already built an internet backbone in our country. And some of you might be surprised to know that we have more than 700,000 people working in the IT sector as freelancers. And that's not a small number, more than 700,000 people, young people working from home. They're not really in big corporate infrastructure, but they are there. And the last point that I want to make is, I'm very, very happy to note that the Japan economic zone is coming up, and by 2023, your first factory is going to be set up over there. And that's very, very encouraging for us. But I hope this is only the beginning, not the end. We would like you to set up, or you would like you to consider Bangladesh as another industrial hub from where you can actually set up many products, and beyond the economic zones, there are areas where you can actually go beyond the economic zones and set up factories and connect with the global market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Kamran T. Rahman, President Employers Federation, right? You were, yes, former.
Now the Senior Vice President of the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Thank you. I see one hand here, so I will have to close soon the open discussion. I'll come back to the podium.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, my name is Myung-Ho Lee from Mitsubishi Corporation, representing Bangladesh. Since today's theme is the Bangladesh-Japan partnership to the next level, I would like to kindly request Honorable Minister to please kindly schedule our Honorable Prime Minister to come to Japan, taking advantage of the 50 years diplomatic relationship this year. The best way to promote the relationship is top sales. Top sales means your Honorable Prime Minister. I remember that her visit to Japan has been postponed in last year, March, due to the COVID. She was about to travel to Japan. It was postponed, unfortunately. So it is a time to remind you that please kindly schedule the Prime Minister to Japan, and we are happy to accompany, and we hope that Bangladesh private sector also accompanies the mission to Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that proposal. I would come here. I will come back to Ambassador Ashraf, but I would also like to recognize the presence of Mr. Sohail Ahmed Chowdhury, who has been the Commerce Secretary. So if you want to make any comment, and also if you want to make any comment or observations, so before we come back here.
Well, I have some memory problem now, but as far as I recollect, the Japanese attention to Bangladesh started from that plane hijacking. The government of Bangladesh at that time really did a lot to save a lot of Japanese lives. And from that time, the Japanese government or Japanese authorities really looked at Bangladesh with a lot of soft corner. And then it started. The huge amount of grants and all that. And now we see what is the level of that. Thank you.
Do you like to make any remarks? Yeah. Yes, Ambassador Farooq Sohan, would you like to come back? Yeah. Okay. Last opportunity. So
I'm sorry, I'm barging in because, I'm a strong devotee of Japan-Bangladesh bilateral relationship. And since I was ambassador there for 4 years, so I can bring some sense of insight in the essence of relationship between our two countries. I think the most important foundation of two countries' relationship is at the political level. And we have the best of political relationship with Japan. Now, let me cite 1 or 2 examples for that. Mr. Taro, also the former Prime Minister, I was very close to him, very kind of him, that, after he, left his Prime Ministership, I went to and told him, requested him to become the president of the Japan-Bangladesh Parliamentary Association following the death of Mr. Hayakawa. And he said, no, Ambassador, I'm busy. I said, Excellency, you're the most, friends of Bangladesh. So you should take over this parliamentary association. And I was very happy to learn that he took it over. So that's the sentiment. Second, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, after he left Prime Ministership in 2007, after 1 year, I met him quite frequently at one of the lunch. He told me, Ambassador, I really love your country. And I have ambition to become the Prime Minister again. And when I become Prime Minister, I will visit your country. He did that in 2014, bringing 200 a strong delegation member, and all these 200, that his delegate members were not just tourists. They were the captains and chairmen of all the top companies of Japan. So I think that was the sense of direction that he gave. Once Prime Minister Taro also, now coming back to Bangladesh, he told me that, there are certain things that the Asian don't share with us. He said that for Japanese, work is our first religion. he mentioned about, some Japanese, working in certain Asian countries or neighboring countries. He said that, Japanese people, if the work starts at 8, supposed to start at 8, they go there half an hour before and just on the work at 8. But the host laborers, the workers, they come at 8, they change their clothes, take 40 minutes, and they start their work. So that's the difference. So what is most important is ethics, the work ethics and discipline. These are the most important thing that what they mentioned is about, the how you can attract the Japanese investment in this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sorry, 30 seconds. Yes, please, quickly. Yeah. 30 seconds, please. Yes. It's getting late and we're feeling hungry, actually. So
yes, sorry, just a few seconds I will take. My name is Atikul Islam. I'm from New Vision Solutions Limited, which is a research and consultancy firm. So as a researcher, we always feel that the information system in Bangladesh is very poor, I guess. So because Japanese companies always ask for more information about a business or about an investment. So in Bangladesh, I think there is a lacking. So I would like to request our honorable ministers so that we can work on the information system, that more available information is there to work on the research purposes. And another one is that to go up to the ease of doing business. We think one-stop solution service is very important. And
thank you.
And we think Japan can help us in these regards also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's a lot on the plate, actually. So I would come back to the closing session now. Before I start, I would like to request Ambassador, His Excellency, tonight, if you want to make any comments in response to what has been said before I call upon my designated speakers.
Thank you, Famida. I think I'll try to be as brief as possible. So some of the speakers, as well as the questions and comments from the floor, talked about the importance of FTA. So I think I'm bound to respond to this. I think one of the speakers said that in most cases, Bangladesh is ahead of Japan. I'm sorry, Japan is ahead of Bangladesh in terms of initiative. But in this case, Bangladesh is ahead of Japan. So Bangladesh already made a request to start this joint study of FTA back in November 2020. But Tokyo has been considering how we can initiate the process of joint study of FTA. But since this is a 50th anniversary, I think it's really symbolic and timely if we can start this FTA consultations or joint study. But one footnote is that if we start, or if we conclude, try to conclude, that will have to be economic partnership agreement, just rather than just focusing on tariffs and market access. And also this will have to be reciprocal, two-way consultations and the treaty, which means that Japanese side also going to make a request to reduce some tariffs and so forth. So this is about FTA, and I should respond to the importance of having a Bangladesh workforce in Japan. I think that is an area we really need to focus our efforts on. So this is a really mutually beneficial area. The population in Japan declining, you have young force. So what we need is really focused effort to train people here to cater for the needs of Japanese market. So we have opened up a market in specified sectors like hospitals, nursing, caregiving, restaurant, agriculture, fishery, and so forth. But I think both sides need to make more efforts. But it should be Bangladesh side who should initiate the process of training, not necessarily through those government-owned 60-something training institutes, but because this is to provide jobs to young people in Bangladesh. Private sector needs to make investment, and private sector needs to make some initiative so that those people are trained truly to meet the requirement and needs of the Japanese market. So these are two comments I wanted to make. Thank you very much.
Let's support these comments. Now I would like to request, we have a speaker who is going to join online, our guest of honor, His Excellency Mr. Shahabuddin Ahmed, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, Embassy of Bangladesh in Japan. So he has joined us online. Over to you.
আমার মোবাইল নম্বর তোমরা জানো না, এটা ভবিষ্যতে দিয়ে দাও। কি আমি শুরু করব?
Yes, please. Yeah, start.
Yes. Chief guest of today's program, Honorable Minister for Planning, Mr. M.A. Mannan MP, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed, His Excellency Mr. Ito Naoki, Ambassador of Japan in Bangladesh, Dr. Fahmida Khatun, Executive Director, CPD, distinguished speakers from Japan and Bangladesh, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, konnichiwa, and a very good afternoon from Tokyo. I feel privileged to attend the dialogue on Bangladesh-Japan partnership for the next development journey. I congratulate CPD for organizing this program and express my gratitude for inviting me to say a few words. First of all, I pay my deepest homage to the greatest Bengali of all time, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who came to Japan on an official visit in 1973 that had set the tone of the bilateral relations. Bangladesh and Japan have been enjoying excellent relations since our independence in 1971. In today's program, CPD has tried to take a stock of various aspects of that relationship with a focus towards the future. Throughout the program, I have been enriched by the speeches and interactive discussions by eminent Japanese and Bangladeshi speakers from diverse fields who have shared valuable opinions and expertise. CPD's presentation highlighting the partnership between Bangladesh and Japan in the past and how such collaboration may be taken forward during the fourth industrial revolution and post-LDC graduation phases is time befitting. We received clear ideas from the presentations on the business and trade relationship between Bangladesh and Japan in the past 5 decades, Japanese ODA to Bangladesh, and Japanese FDI in Bangladesh, and how Japan may support Bangladesh in its next development journey during the fourth industrial revolution and beyond. The dialogue was very effective and interactive, and it focused on very important issues such as how to increase exports of goods and services to Japan, potential exportable products, bilateral trade agreements, bringing more FDI from Japan, and the lesson that Bangladesh can learn from Japan's technological progress. Japan is Bangladesh's trusted and time-tested friend since long. Soon after our independence, diplomatic relations were established on 10th February 1972, and this year we have celebrated the 50th anniversary, that is Golden Jubilee of bilateral relations, in a befitting manner. We have organized reception program, brought out commemorative stamps and coins, and exhibited photographs and documents related to the past and present of our steadfast bilateral relations. Over the last 5 decades, it has been a journey of moving together in an unwavering show of friendship and solidarity, mutual trust and understanding in bilateral, regional, as well as international issues of mutual concern. Over the years, we have seen a continuous growth of trade, investment, and other economic activities. Japan is our leading export destination for Bangladesh in Asia. Currently, over 300 Japanese companies are operating businesses in Bangladesh. In a survey conducted by Japan Bank for International Cooperation, JPIC, among Japanese companies in 2021. Bangladesh ranked among the top 20 promising countries for the second consecutive years in terms of business prospects over the medium term. According to the latest annual survey of JETRO, 68% of the Japanese companies interviewed in 2021 expressed their willingness to expand business in Bangladesh. Although the volume of bilateral trade and investment is yet to reach full potential, there is a huge opportunity as Bangladesh is pursuing liberal investment policies, offers fiscal and non-fiscal incentives, strategic location, competitive workforce, large domestic market, and quality export products for Japan. With Japan's financial and technical assistance under the Big B initiative, we have integrated infrastructure development projects in the Moheshkhali Matarpari area where there is a large presence and involvement of Japanese companies. In fact, Japan is the single largest bilateral partner in Bangladesh development endeavors, with cumulative commitment for ODA support to the tune of about 27 billion US since independence till date. You are aware that the Japanese government has been actively engaged to develop the Japanese economic zone in Narayanganj. Moreover, Bangladesh has been building 100 special economic zones and IT high-tech industrial parks in different parts of Bangladesh, where Japanese investors can invest and avail various fiscal and non-fiscal policy incentives. Both countries can be mutually benefited by bringing in skilled manpower from Bangladesh to Japan. Let me mention that we have signed MOC on technical intern and specified skilled workers SSW, through which skilled workforce in different categories like IT, nursing, and other professions are able to come to Japan. For example, a number of Bangladeshi technical intern and nurses have already been employed in Japanese health sector. Bangladesh currently enjoys duty-free access in Japan's under Japan's GSP for LDC scheme. So after graduation from LDC status, Bangladesh would not be able to enjoy duty-free, quota-free market access in Japan, and necessary arrangements like bilateral trade agreement will be required. Despite challenges, graduation from the LDC group will brighten Bangladesh's image in the world, increase FDI inflow for congenial business environment, and increase regional and global connectivity. I believe that as an indomitable nation, we will be able to turn the challenges into opportunities in the coming days. Despite COVID-19, the Embassy of Bangladesh has been trying best to facilitate bilateral trade and investment. We organized a good number of virtual and physical events for branding Bangladesh and focusing potential sectors for investment. These include Bangladesh seminar on trade, investment, and skilled human resources, Japan-Bangladesh ICT webinar, and ICT B2B matchmaking event, investment promotion webinar, business forum with CEOs of prominent Japanese companies. We have planned to expand our activities in various other areas to attract Japanese FDI into Bangladesh. For example, there is a plan to organize a roadshow showcasing Bangladesh in Japan. Under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the two countries have elevated our relations to a comprehensive partnership in 2014. We are now working closely with the government of Japan to elevate the relations to a strategic partnership level. We are hopeful to build even more prosperous, peaceful, and progressive relations between Bangladesh and Japan in the coming days. Finally, I would like to conclude by thanking CPD again for organizing such an important event. সকলকে ধন্যবাদ, আরিগাতো গোজাইমাস্তা, long live the Bangladesh-Japan friendship, joy Bangla.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Shahabuddin Ahmed, for your remarks. Now I would like to request our special guest, Mr. Qazi Nabil Ahmed MP, who is a member of Parliamentary Standing Committee on Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh, to
সময়
make
তো
his
বেশি লাগে
remarks.
হ্যাঁ এমন সময় সে দুবার
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. Today, the dialogue on Bangladesh-Japan partnership for next development journey, organized by CPD, a very timely event on the 50th anniversary of the relationship between Bangladesh and Japan. The chair of today's program, Professor Rahman Sawan, and the conductor of today's program, Dr. Famida Khatun, Executive Director of Center for Policy Dialogue. Today, our chief guest, the Honorable Minister of Planning of the Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Mr. M.A. Mannan, and our guest of honor, Ambassador Ito Naoki, and we have other distinguished panelists and speakers on the stage, and many distinguished guests among the guests today. I would like to give you a very warm welcome and greetings and salam. I would like to pay homage to our father of the nation, Bangamudhi Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, without whom Bangladesh would not have happened. Bangladesh would not have been born. And today we are still celebrating the 100 years of his birth centenary and the 50 years of Bangladesh's independence until 26th March. This is the month of March. I would like to pay homage to all the martyrs of 1971 whose sacrifice gave us this red and green flag to fly in the world stage. I would like to say a few words regarding the Bangladesh-Japan relationship that we have right now. One of the original things that have been said throughout the program today is the real friendship between Japan and Bangladesh. Japan has really been an original and true friend of Bangladesh in every sense of the word. Even before Bangladesh was born, when the cyclone of November 1970 happened, Japan was one of the first countries in the then East Pakistan to come to aid of the people of the cyclone-affected region. And from then on, in 1971, we've already heard that even school children in Japan used to donate their tiffin for the refugees of the Bangladesh war in 1971. In 1972, in February, Bangladesh was recognized by Japan. In March, the Japanese embassy in Dhaka was opened. And if I'm right, in June, the Bangladesh embassy in Tokyo was opened in 1972. And from then on, Bangladesh has always had Japan by its side in every sense of the word. If we talk about our development partners, now we have many partners in many countries that are engaging with Bangladesh in a very active manner. But actually, it is Japan who has quietly been the largest development partner of Bangladesh, as all the projects and statistics that have been shown in the main presentation that we have seen. I will not enumerate them anymore, but we have seen that all the lot of communication work and many other things have been done by Japan in Bangladesh. And even in trade and commerce, Japan was one of the earliest partners of Bangladesh. And we have already seen in the presentation all the goods and services that we are selling to Japan, and all the things that Japan has been investing in Bangladesh for a long time. Now, actually, I would like to look to the future. How do we take this 50 years to the next 50 years and look back in these 50 years as to what has been achieved between Japan and Bangladesh? And one of the main issues that's going to come up in the next few decades for Japan that has already been stated is the demographic change in the Japanese workforce in Japan. And actually, that by itself is not going to be advantageous to Bangladesh if Bangladesh is not ready to take opportunity of that advantage and be of service at every level. For that, we need Bangladeshi youngsters right now who are in the right age group of their teens in high schools and in their universities and polytechnics and other training institutes to be ready for training to work in Japan. As we have had a distinguished panelist over here, many Bangladeshis over the decades have trained as doctors, scientists, agriculturists, and many other PhD programs and other graduate programs in Japan. But we need to get a much bigger, a workforce ready to be able to be trained and work in Japan and be completely culturally attuned to the Japanese society and economy over there. Without that, actually this demographic advantage cannot be taken that Bangladesh is going to have over the next 3 to 4 decades. And at some point in time, Bangladesh will be facing similar situations itself as well in the coming decades as well. So while we have that, we have right now a huge workforce that works in Middle East and Southeast Asia and some other places, and we should be looking to Japan as well. And one of the other things that has been talked about is the fourth industrial revolution. Actually, Bangladesh, if we talk to business people, even in Bangladesh in different chambers, even different manufacturing hubs, different industries in Bangladesh themselves are facing shortage of qualified and the workers. And one thing that has not been stated is Japan is one of the most advanced countries for all kinds of scientific research in business, industrialization, and all other aspects. And in artificial intelligence and other cutting edge technologies, we Bangladeshis should be taking advantage of the knowledge of our Japanese partners in academia, in business, in research, to have joint ventures in Bangladesh and in Japan to take that advantage over there. Our Honorable Minister is a much more knowledgeable person than me, and he will be able to illuminate us in many different aspects of the relationship. So I would just like to say, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the relationship between Japan and Bangladesh have been strengthened over the decades during her prime ministership. And I do believe that the 50 years of Japan and Bangladesh actually calls for a high-level visit from both sides. Not only the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh going to Japan, I would also urge actually maybe even having the Japanese Prime Minister visit Bangladesh, and if possible, to even think about an imperial visit or the Crown Prince visit to Bangladesh for the relationship and the friendship we have with Japan and Bangladesh. And I would to end my note over here that here's to another 50 years of really productive partnership through which Japan and Bangladesh can strengthen each other. And actually we do pay homage to all the Japanese people who have worked in Bangladesh tirelessly. Especially, we pay homage to the seven martyrs who lost their lives in 2016 Holy Artisan Bakery attack. And even after that, Japan came back stronger, partaking in all our development works just like before. So I would like to thank Japan for the friendship, and I look forward to the next 50 years. Thank you very much. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Mr. Kazi Nabil Ahmed, for these valuable remarks, very focused and very pertinent indeed. So I would now request our chief guest, who has been patiently waiting. You have always been so kind and patient and come and listen to the whole session. And of course, Mr. Nabil Ahmed has also been doing, and thank you very much once again for your goodwill and cooperation to CPD. So Mr. M.A. Mannan, MP, who is the Honorable Minister for Ministry of Planning, Government of Bangladesh. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Shubha Vikal. I would like to begin by thanking CPD for organizing this event and its young researcher, Yusuf Sadat, for a very succinct and very objective presentation. I would like to pay my respects to my good friend, His Excellency Mr. Ito Naoki, Ambassador of Japan in Bangladesh, and also another good friend, Mr. Yuho Hayakawa, Jaiga chief in our country. These two gentlemen particularly I mentioned because in my work in the government of Bangladesh, I do come across their names quite frequently, particularly the later name, Mr. Hayakawa. I would like to compliment you, Mr. Hayakawa, and before I forget, I would like to mention that occasionally, even in the cabinet, Jaiga's name comes up in a very positive way. Particularly in the recent past, you're very quickly, very speedily completing the work on Gomti and Chitalaka bridges, and within the cost, in fact, saving some money. This was highly appreciated. The cabinet, our Prime Minister herself, put a very a lot of praise for your good work here. So there are other occasions also. I can also inform you that next Tuesday you will have your BIGM project on the table. Thank you. Japan is something very special for us. Why I say this? Because even the school child, Suryodoyer Desh, the land of the rising sun, we used to read in our textbooks. Even before Bangladesh was born, people in this country knew a lot about Japan. To put things in perspective, in the recent history, some names come up very strongly between our two cultures. Our great Nobel laureate poet Rabindranath Tagore visited Japan extensively and wrote on it in Bangla language, which found its way in various texts. So we are very well informed through his writings. Very positive, very highly praiseworthy writings. And then, of course, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he visited Japan, not only visited Japan, if I can mention it, two countries. When he looked to the east, he always mentioned Japan with a lot of fond memories. When he looked to the west, of all the countries, he mentioned Switzerland. So in his own emotional way, these two countries, he had very strong mental, cultural links to these two countries. Another person to put, again, to be on history, another brave son of ours, Subhash Chandra Bose, found his shelter in Japan to fight the occupiers of our country during the Second World War. So these are the three names. There must be many others also who could be mentioned. But these three names I mentioned with a lot of fond memories. Japan, as my good friend, Kazi Nabil Ahmad, colleague in the parliament, Kazi Nabil Ahmad MP mentioned, following the 70s devastating cyclone, Japan is one of the earliest countries to move into the scene with a lot of help. We know Japan as a byword almost in this country. Our present government, the government of Sheikh Hasina, when we look to the east, there's a great triangle in Far East on which we put our gaze on. Japan, China, Korea. These three of our great friends in the east. And as a cornerstone of our foreign policy, two of our very senior diplomats are here, Mr. Farid Subhan and Mr. Zola. They would also support when I say this. We bear strong bilateral friendship with almost every country. And to my knowledge, during the last 50 years of our friendship with Japan, there has never been an occasion when we disagreed on any matters. We have been consistently friendly, consistently warm. There are many occasions I can mention. Following our liberations, the first big job that Japanese did was building the Jamuna interconnector, east-west interconnector, linking the power grids on both sides of our country. That was the first big job we did. And following our father of the nation's visit and his request, a strong Japanese team came to Bangladesh and did a survey on our Jamuna bridge, which finally led into the construction of the bridge. As a matter of fact, if you look at the map of Bangladesh, your footprints are everywhere. I've lived fairly long in this country. Wherever you go, starting from Matarpari, which is very recent, Arai Hazar, I can mention other sites also. Metro rails here, going to the north, the Jamuna Bridge, and whatnot. Everywhere your footprints are here, friendly footprints. And we enjoy working with your country. We would like that this strong bond of friendship continue in the coming days. And the gentleman here was mentioning his experience for the last 10 years, very positive experience. There must be many other positive stories too. Our government believes in economic development. We would like to work for that. We just can't have it just by saying that we want it. We have to work and we have to build friendship and we have to learn from you. And while doing it, we have to see that both countries or both cultures gain together. It's a win-win situation, as you said. Unless it is win-win for both, it can't really sustain. Recognize that. So on this occasion of 50 years, first 50 years that we have covered, and looking forward to the next 50 years, I'm confident, building on the positive note that for the last 50 years, next 50 years is going to be even better, stronger, warmer. In this context, Ambassador Ito, I would like to mention this question of FTA brought in here. Our government is, as far as I know, that is looked after by the Commerce Ministry, we are going out trying to draft, build FTAs with many countries. Japan would be a very strong contender, partner in our lookout for building FTAs. But you yourself have mentioned that there are some difficulties here at your end. So I'm sure with your intervention and with support from our Prime Minister and our Commerce Minister and others, we'll be able to bridge this gap so that we have a meaningful, we have productive and very fruitful FTA, which will be good for both Japan and for ourselves too. There are some negative issues which I must not also forget. I would like to thank Mr. Asif Chaudhry for being very frank in mentioning 2-3 issues. Like one was, he said very correctly, the problem lies at the bottom in the context of doing business faster, better, smoother. We have many regulations, regulatory framework, which is considered by UNCTAD even to be very friendly compared to many others. But unfortunately, at the bottom, the persons at the desk level, even me for that matter, we find it difficult to be able to rise to the occasion and to do things better, to do things faster. We have to continue to do it. We are not deterred by any fear. Our Prime Minister, she is very forthright in this matter, and we should like to see that these bilateral trade relations become smoother and better for all of us. The matter of corruption is a cancer. We recognize it, but many people do live with cancers and do have a sort of productive life too. Of course, finally, we look forward to eliminating this cancer. We are a democratic country. We have our rules and regulations. While even addressing corruption, we have to go by our rules. We just can't go out and jump and pick up someone and shoot him in the stadium ground. There are rules in this regard also. He also has his rights. So there we find it sometimes dilatory. Sometimes the procedures in the courts take time. We recognize that, but we would like to change the laws in this regard. And while doing it, we can learn from your country too. So we'd like to assure Mr. Asif Chaudhry and others here that corruption is a matter that is very much within our sight. We would like to eliminate it while recognizing that it's a very difficult task. It's very sticky, and with a lot of development activities going around now, opportunities for corruption have also increased to that extent. So thank you for bringing this issue out, Mr. Asif Chaudhry. And while there are many other issues, you were mentioning about, sometimes I hear from CPD and from other study centers and think tanks, this post-LDC period, you say is going to be very difficult for us. The new world, when we're in the middle income range, is going to be quite different from the one that we have been enjoying for the last 50 years or so. Well, you have better information on that. You probably have a lot of studies. But we have the case of MFA in our hands. While we are heading towards the elimination of MFAs, multi-favor agreements, there are a lot of talks about countries like ours facing almost ruinous situation. But fortunately, that did not happen. Why it did not happen? Because our entrepreneurs, our workforce, our people rose, and they faced it, and they could address the issues at hand with courage. And so we have come out with a very brilliant garments industry, which has belied the fears of so many people. I would like to be optimistic here too. I'm sure the new world is going to be even more productive for us. As a matter of fact, as an individual, I do feel that moving into a middle income range getting away from this LDC bracket is something which is going to unleash a lot of energy in our economy. That's my personal belief. I'm not an economist, I can't say it with figures, but I do feel that we have better prospects out there. And only one point with our citizens here in this country, the people belonging to Bangladesh, there's one fear I have, and that is the fear of some kind of a political sort of discontent or unease, which may deter our way into our future. So that is something I bring to your notice here, the citizens, the Bangladeshis here in this room. That is the only thing that we have to fear. Only fear is that we don't shoot our own feet. We keep our targets steady. And with that, I'm sure we'll be able to overcome these difficulties that you have mentioned. Ease of doing business is something, again, we would like to improve, but the problem at the bottom, the people at the desk, is the one point that there most of the difficulties arise. So these studies by CPD and others would help us in the government look at things in a better light and find ways of moving into a world where where the opportunities are much greater than what we have at this moment. And I'm sure we in Bangladesh, the Bengalis or Bangladeshis, we would be able to face up to the situation and do really achieve the goal of becoming a developed country, becoming a self-sufficient, self-reliant, confident country by 2041. Until now, this is we are right on track, we think, except the COVID difficulty. I think we'll be able to reach the goals of that we have set up for ourselves in the SDGs, as well as set up ourselves by 2041. We'd like to be there. So on our journey to that 2041, Japan can be a very, very strong friend. And with the past 50 years friendship and having no incident where we disagreed, I'm confident the next 50 years is going to be better. And while in our goal of reaching 2041, I would like to exhort Japan and other friends to stand by us. We are at work. We would like to work and change our fortune. আমি দু একটি কথা বাংলা করব আমার বাংলা ভাষার যারা আমার সাংবাদিক বন্ধুগণ আছেন বাংলা গণমাধ্যমের। জাপানের সঙ্গে বন্ধুত্ব কখনো কোনো সমস্যা হয়নি, অত্যন্ত উষ্ণ এবং অত্যন্ত নির্ভরযোগ্য বন্ধুত্ব। জাপানের সঙ্গে আমাদের এমন কোনো বিষয় নাই যে তাদের সঙ্গে কখনো কোনো মনোমালিন্য হয়েছে। বাংলাদেশের সর্বত্র জাপানের কাজ আপনারা দেখছেন, চমৎকার কাজ। 2500 যেটা হচ্ছে এটা নিয়ে অলরেডি সারা দেশে আলোচনা হচ্ছে। মাতার বাড়িকে কেউ কেউ জাপানের, আমাদের এলাকার লোকেরা নাকি জাপান বাড়ি বলে মাতার বাড়িকে। তার মানে কি বন্ধুত্ব জাপানের প্রতি আমাদের মানুষের। এছাড়া আরো অনেক কাজ আমাদের, বিশেষ করে এই 2500 যে কাজটা হবে, আমার যা মনে হচ্ছে যে আগামী 4-5 বছরের মধ্যে এই দিকের যে ল্যান্ডস্কেপ এটা পুরোপুরি বদলে যাবে। শুধু এই ল্যান্ডস্কেপ বদলাবে না, এর ফলে আমাদের অর্থনৈতিক ল্যান্ডস্কেপটা একটু ঊর্ধ্বে উঠবে এবং সার্বিকভাবে আমাদের যে বর্তমান যে ড্রাইভ যে চলছে এইটা আরো জোরদার হবে। এই বার্তাটা আমি আমাদের জাপানি বন্ধুদের কাছে দিচ্ছি সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে। সরকার জাপানকে অত্যন্ত উচ্চ মর্যাদা দেয়, কারণ জাপান এশিয়া, এটা বলা উচিত। জাপানের সঙ্গে বন্ধুত্ব মানে এশীয় বন্ধুত্ব, এবং এইটা কোনো অন্যায় কিছু নয়। জাপান একটা বড় অর্থনৈতিক শক্তি, এশীয় শক্তি, এবং জাপানের সঙ্গে আমাদের তেমন কোনো সমস্যা নেই। এটাকে আমরা কাজে লাগাবো, আমাদের সরকার কাজে লাগাবেন। অতীতে যে সকল ব্যক্তি জাপানের, বিশেষ করে যে কয়েকটি নাম মনে আসছে আমার, হায়াকা নামে বন্ধুলোক ছিলেন, বোধ সোনারগাঁও হোটেল তৈরির সময় তিনি খুব এসেছিলেন এবং আমাদের এখানে খুব অনেক কন্ট্রিবিউশন করেছিলেন। বঙ্গবন্ধুর সঙ্গে তো সাক্ষাৎ হয়েছিল, তার কথা মনে আসছে। একজন জাপানি প্রধানমন্ত্রী, নামটা ভুলে গেলাম, তিনি গোমতী সেতুতে এসে তিনি মানে যখন দেখলেন যে এটা এত ন্যারো সেতু, যাওয়া আসার সমস্যা হবে, তিনি অন দ্য স্পট অর্ডার দিয়েছিলেন যে আরেকটা সেতু যেন এখানে করা হয়, এবং জাইকা হেল্প বিল্ড আপ দ্য সেকেন্ড Your Prime Minister, I forget the name, prior to Mr. Shinzo Abe. What's his name? He visited this bridge and he was very angry. Huh? He was very angry. Why such a narrow bridge has been built? এটা বললাম কেন যে উনি এতটা আগ্রহ ছিল বাংলাদেশের প্রতি। সুতরাং এই সকল ঘটনা বলার অর্থ একটাই, তাদের সঙ্গে আমাদের বন্ধুত্বটাকে আরেকটু আমরা শক্ত করতে চাই। তো আমি শেষ করব এই কথা বলে, আমিও আমার বন্ধু আমাদের সাংসদ কাজী নাবিল আমরা এখানে আছি, আমরা আশ্বস্ত করতে চাই যে আমরা কাজ করে যাব, উন্নয়নের কাজ করে যাব, শক্তিশালী উন্নয়নের কাজ করে যাব, এবং সেই কাজে সিপিডি এবং অন্যান্য যারা থিঙ্ক ট্যাঙ্কস আছেন বা পণ্ডিত ব্যক্তিবর্গ আছেন তাদের কথাবার্তা আমরা শুনে, বিশেষ করে রহমান সাহেব যে কথাগুলো বললেন তার কথা আমরা অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বের সঙ্গে শুনেছি। তিনি আমাদের একজন সিনিয়র নাগরিক, তিনি প্ল্যানিং কমিশনেও সদস্য ছিলেন। সুতরাং সকলকে নিয়ে আমরা একসাথে সামনে দিকে করতে চাই। আজকে আয়োজনের জন্য সিপিডি আপনাকে ধন্যবাদ। আশা করি আগামীতে আপনাদের সঙ্গে দেখা হবে। থ্যাংকস টু Ambassador of Japan and Jaiga chief and all other guests, particularly guests from our press and other ladies and gentlemen who are present at this session. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister for Planning, for those words, valuable words. You have again highlighted, you have termed his friendly footprints, which is everywhere. Yeah, we want to reiterate that this friendly footprints will continue in Bangladesh's next development journey and Bangladesh and Japan's next partnership journey. I wouldn't, say anything. I wouldn't summarize because it's too late and a lot has been said. There's no point in summarizing, but I would like to also thank our participants, those who have joined online. This program has been live streamed, and in the Facebook there have been 570 times of views. So it has reached, and it will continue to be. It will be on our social media, and we will share the video with you. I would now request our participants and our guests to join us for lunch on the 23rd floor at Prego Restaurant. Thank you very much once again for joining, and those who have joined on Zoom and participated from Japan and also from Dhaka online. Once again, we are grateful and we are hoping for the best, and we would continue to strengthen our relationship and partnership with Japan. Thank you.